Come è rappresentata Hong Kong nell'immaginario collettivo? Grattacieli, negozi, caos, alta finanza, paradiso fiscale, beati loro, arti marziali e cinema. Ecco, soffermiamoci sugli ultimi due aspetti. È proprio il cinema ad aver dato ancora più lustro a questa metropoli. I primi film cinesi sulle arti marziali erano considerati più cinesati delle cinesate. Colpi mortali, monaci volanti, magie. Sì ragazzi, era il cinema di una volta. Adesso siamo nell'era della I. Chi mai crederà alle magie, ai colpi segreti micidiali?
Nein! Ma buono che esiste, lo Kung Fu micidiale, la difesa da strada.
Ok, vai, siamo messi peggio di come pensavo. Se le arti cinesi si sono aperte al mondo intero, è per merito del cinema d'azione basato sulle arti marziali, che nasce proprio qui, con i loro esponenti maggiori, gli Shaw Brothers. Calci, pugni, capriole e tanti, ma tanti infortuni. Non esistevano gli stuntman o le controfigure. I requisiti richiesti erano due: la conoscenza del Kung Fu e 2 biglie d'acciaio. Il cinema di Hong Kong è diventato così tanto famoso che in una delle zone, se non la zona più iconica, Tsim Sha Tsui, c'è la Avenue of the Stars, dedicata alle stelle del cinema che hanno reso questo posto il paradiso delle arti marziali. Ma l'ultimo e più importante è stato un signore nato in America ma cresciuto qui, come attore e come artista. Lo conoscete? La sua figura è diventata leggenda. Il primo progressista, in senso buono, delle arti marziali. Via gli scureggioni volanti e sì al vero duro allenamento. Di riflesso, tutto quello che ha avuto a che fare con la sua vita si è sviluppato e ad oggi splende di luce propria. E, anche se non amo particolarmente la sua figura, sono qui anche grazie a lui. In Occidente, il 99% di chi ha intrapreso la strada degli stili orientali ha in mente la sua figura e il suo esempio.
E quindi oggi, per la nostra rubrica, siamo ad Hong Kong Central e stiamo andando a trovare uno dei personaggi più positivi del nostro ambiente, il signor Chris Collins.
Per me è la definizione totale di uomo d'azione, ex marine, istruttore di tiro dinamico, maestro di cavi, secondo dan e maestro di jiu-jitsu brasiliano e ultimo, ma non meno importante, maestro di Wing Chun. Oltre ad essere famoso nel mondo del Kung Fu, Chris ha recitato nell'ultima grande produzione cinematografica sulle arti marziali. Sto parlando della serie Ip Man. Nel quarto capitolo ha interpretato un karateka americano, avversario del maestro Ip e, ironia della sorte, detrattore degli stili cinesi. Ho partecipato ad una sua lezione di BJJ e ad una di Wing Chun, ma con voi condividerò la nostra chiacchierata. La sua storia mi ha ispirato nelle future produzioni che presto vedranno la luce su questo canale, quindi mettetevi comodi e godetevi questa prima parte di intervista.
Ed ecco, siamo qui, ospiti del maestro Chris Collins. Chris, prima domanda. Cosa ti ha spinto a lasciare gli Stati Uniti per venire qui ad Hong Kong?
That's good, right? What drove you to leave the United States, come here to Hong Kong? Wow, very good question, because this was, 1996, 1997. At this time, I was still in the Marines, and I was really, captivated by martial arts. But when I say martial arts, I don't really mean just combat sports, because from the age of 5, I was already learning how to box, learning how to wrestle. My dad made me and my brother to learn. And this originated up in Ohio, is actually where I'm from. And then we moved back down to Florida. So anyway, I joined the Marines, and I'm living this life, and I'm loving it. And then I started to really get into philosophy, and I was reading lots of different Eastern philosophy books and different martial arts. And then I came across one book in particular. I wish that I still had it. But it was connecting the different martial arts with their philosophies. And as I was reading the different ones, I came across the Wing Chun. And as I'm reading about the philosophy and the theories of the Wing Chun and their application, I I couldn't stop thinking about how it made sense. Like it worked. But I didn't know anything about Wing Chun other than Bruce Lee. And then a few months later, I got stationed in 29 Palms, California. And every so often on the weekends, we would go to the national park there, Yosemite. And we would just, like you have time off, you go, you hang out. I would do like some mitts with my buddies. We'd train a bit. And always see this old Chinese gentleman over by the park bench. And he was always like doing some sort of movements. And I don't know what they are. And so one day, because, I'm a young guy, I'm like, hey, old man, what are you doing, And he says, I'm doing Wing Chun. And I said, Wing Chun? Wing Chun? I read about this, He says, yeah, this is from Bruce Lee. And I said, yeah, Bruce Lee did the Wing Chun, that's right, And then we start to talk about it, and then I just play around with him because he's an old guy and I'm like throwing some punches. But he is moving like so swift, so fast, very little effort. And he's just like doing all this stuff to me. And I was like, how old are you? And he tell me he's like in his 70s. And I think to myself, wow, imagine a guy like me in my 20s being able to do this. It's like amazing. So anyway, it sits in my brain for a while and I keep thinking about it. I meet him every now and then. He'd show me some stuff. And then I said, look, what if I really want to learn this Wing Chun? And he said, oh, no, I not teach Wing Chun. You have to go to Hong Kong. I said, Hong Kong? I said, oh, my mother's from Hong Kong, That's kind of cool. And then I start asking him, like, who should I go to learn from? He says, oh, no, I cannot tell you where to learn because there's so many different ways. You just go and you search it there because that's the home of it, you could say. So I said, okay. But anyway, I slowly just doing my research. And then I finished my time at 29 Palms. I go back to my normal unit. And then during this time, regular training, and then I start like searching and I'm writing down on a piece of paper, like every time I can find a Wing Chun school in Hong Kong, I write it. And then one day I just decide, I talking with a couple of my Marine buddies. And I said, Damon, I really want to do this. I want to go and focus on the martial arts aspect because I think it's because the Wing Chun is so efficient in how it moves that it would really benefit the Marine Corps. And he was like, well, dude, man, like if this is what you dream of, you got to go do it. But, at that time we were in the process of doing a lot of really hard training in order to go to specialized schools. And I really wanted that. But at the same time, I was like, but I really want this, And I was like, how do I choose? And all I could think of was like, well, I'm really young right now. I could go to Hong Kong, focus on this, and then I could go back. And he was like, yeah, do it. And so then during that next couple of weeks, then I'm meeting with my buddy Max, and we're talking about it. And my buddy Max has like every Bruce Lee book ever written. And we're sitting in his truck, and excuse me, but he's smoking a joint, and I'm talking to him. And so I'm getting secondhand smoke only. And I'm listening to him, and we're talking, and I'm like, this is something that I really believe in, and I think I have to go for it. And he says, yeah, dude, because you don't want to regret. You don't want to go through life regretting your actions, like what you've done. Of course, we've all had regrets. So then I make the decision, and I went and spoke to my commanding officer, and I said, hey, I really want to do this. I want to focus this for the Marines, blah, blah, blah. We go through this whole discussion. My platoon sergeant was really upset with me, because he said, man, like, you're ready to go and do all this. We spent a lot of time and effort. A lot of money is going to go into your training, and you want to go and focus on this? And I said, yeah, because I really believe in it. And he said, okay. So anyway, I get permission to go into the IRR, and then I moved to Hong Kong. And my mom just freaked out, because my mom is from Hong Kong, but she left in the 70s, and she was like, oh, God, don't go back there, Like, I fought so hard to come to America, and then you want to go back to Hong Kong. So yeah, I came here and I spent, a few months going to every Wing Chun school I could find in Hong Kong. Eventually, I call it the last day of me like living on the streets behind the bookstore at the corner on Nathan Road. Like, so Leung Ting's gym was here, and you walk this way, and then there's a bookstore, and then like you could fit like 2 or 3 cars right here, and then behind it, you know, I would sleep at night, and I had these 2 old like 1970s suitcases from my parents. One was a horrible blue and one was a horrible red, but I would sleep on these, and then I would go to the academy. But so I'm like in a very frustrated situation because I had visited all these places, and I'm like, this cannot be what Bruce Lee was talking about. I don't see what I read that is so amazing, and I couldn't see people even moving like this old man that I met. Until I go and I'm walking down the street on Nathan Road, and I see the Leung Ting gym. But it just had the word gym, G-Y-M, and I'm thinking it's maybe it's a weightlifting gym, or maybe they got some bags I can go punch. Because at this point, I'm ready to leave Hong Kong. I'm like, man, this is really frustrating. So anyway, I go up the stairs, and the door, those of you that know the headquarters, has a window in it. And then I say, oh, it's Wing Chun. And so then I peek through the window, and I see this young man who just moved so gracefully and yet so powerful at the same time. He's shorter than me, ripped muscles, had his hands were like this big. And to this day, he's like one of my best friends, Ngandak-yi, Ray, you know. And so all my students, they know of him. I always talk of him. And he comes to the door, and he looks at me with like beady eyes, and he said, what do you want? And I said, learn Wing Chun. Hey, go sit down and wait for Sifu, you know. So we're like looking at each other like, I'm gonna fight you, you know. And then I go and I sit down and I wait, and then some students show up and all that. But I'm watching him, and he's working out on the wooden dummy. He's punching the sandbag. He's doing movements, high kicks, all kicks, punches, bum, bum, bum. And I'm like, this guy moves better than Bruce Lee. Like, this is amazing. I want to move like that, you know. And finally, my Sifu arrives, Sifu Chang, and you know, he greets me. I want to start the class, you know, and I'm sitting there like in front of the mirror, as we all do, and feeling completely ignored, the only Westerner. And then I'm watching him just effortlessly just dismantle people, just touch them, punch them, but just smile. And I see the students like struggling, they're fighting so hard, and he's just da boop, da boop, da boop, smile. And I'm like, yeah, this is where I want to learn. And I'm looking at the body mechanics and everything, and I'm really impressed by this. So anyway, long story short, yeah, I stayed there. I was very happy. So at least I went from only sleeping on the streets to sleeping in the gym. And I was very, very happy that I had finally found the home that I wanted to dedicate a number of years of my life to learn the Wing Chun. So to answer your question, the purpose was to come to Hong Kong, focus on Wing Chun because it was dedicated towards close quarter combat. And I believed that the ambidextrous nature of how the Wing Chun works would benefit the military community, you know, to be exact, the Marine Corps. And that was like my main reason.
Grazie mille. Trascurano l'allenamento fisico. Quanto è importante l'allenamento fisico per Chris Collins?
Oh, absolutely important. I think it's essential. But I don't think it's essential in the initial learning phase. I can only give you my experience as the example. When I moved to Hong Kong and started training, as I told you, I was in the Marines. I was very fit, you know, college football player, weightlifter, kind of like a power lifter. I think I was weighing like 185 pounds on a 5'8" frame. And then I'm learning the Wing Chun, and I'm watching the other students move. And as I said earlier, they moved very gracefully, effortless, very soft. And I was trying to mimic or copy that movement. And I felt like I was very rigid. And so I sat and I thought about it one night, like, what do I need to do? So I made a decision. I stopped eating meat, I stopped eating rice, I basically stopped eating everything. It was like vegetables and water. I went down to about 155 pounds. I didn't lift weights, I didn't do really anything except Wing Chun. keep in mind, like I was doing Wing Chun from morning to night, like every day. And I made myself as weak as I possibly could. And then I would do the Wing Chun, and then I had no strength or energy to use my strength. And then one day I started to feel it. I started to feel like, oh, I just let the movement happen. And then it started to work. And then I said, okay, I'm onto something here. I get it. You have to understand that, my Sifu did not speak much English, okay? And even the English that he probably spoke like 2 words, at a time, because he's not one of those people that feels the need to express verbally the movement. So I'm left with my own thoughts every single day. Why? Why am I doing this? Why is this practical? Why does this make sense? How does this follow the theory or the principles, or the science? So I just married myself to the science. I didn't think about philosophy. I didn't think about energy, I just thought about, force, inertia, what are the reactions to force, what are Newton's laws? Like, that's what I thought about. And then that is how I made sense of it. But that only got me so far. I got to where, okay, I can move. And then, so anyway, I'll stick to your question.
Non ti preoccupare.
Yeah, physical performance, After a period of time, I realized, and that period of time actually took me about 2.5 years. And then I was like, okay, I've got this. I understand it. And then I went back to my normal physical routine of really, my running, my weightlifting, my cardio, like everything, to make myself like a strong fighter. Because although when we learn something, we want to make sure that we're not relying on any physical prowess. But once you have it, then what separates you from the others is your dedication to developing yourself physically. So physically, mentally, spiritually, however you want to state that. So I don't consider myself a very smart person, but I can really get tunnel vision and focus, right? My friends call me back home a bird dog. So bird dog, is like, once the dog sees that bird, it's on it. It gets the scent and it doesn't leave it, So that's my character. So I will keep doing something until I figure it out. Punching, the sandbag or the air 10,000 times a day for 10 years, it's not a joke. It's not just a motivational speech to people. It's like literally, that's what I did, because it took so long until I actually felt, why am I doing this? And it wasn't just punches. And all of a sudden I would feel the energy leave my arms, and okay, that's why you have to put so much effort into this. And then that also gave me that realization that you have to be physical. I don't like it when I see overweight, fat, unhealthy people eating oily foods, drinking Coca-Cola, smoking cigarettes, and then they're talking to me about martial arts.
Ok, allora me ne vado. Ciao.
It's true. I mean, honestly, I don't judge, I don't fault people about these things, but it's like, we do this because we believe it's good for us. It makes us a better person than we were yesterday, right? We always must learn our lessons because anyone. But my day-to-day is I want to get better on these mats. I want to know that I can perform. And I can perform, or I can outlast you. You may be better than me, but I won't quit, and I'll keep going. So you may get through a little bit, but you better pack a lunch because you're going to keep going and going and going. And that's just my mentality. Never to give up, always strive, always be the underdog. So physical performance, not in the middle, not in the beginning, but later on, absolutely.
Grazie, questa è la mentalità da Marine.
What?
No, I like women, girls smoking, video games,
There you go.
motorbikes,
Yes.
no drugs. Drugs, no.
Yeah,
Alcohol,
yeah,
no.
yeah, yeah. Alcohol, I think, is the devil.
The first place, girls. Video games, motorbikes, martial arts,
Yeah.
smoking.
I mean, we have to have our vices. For me, I like to think about like, how do I train my mind and my body to remove conscious thought, so that like whatever I do, I can approach it with the same processes. It's like when I teach my son to ride the motocross. Why did I choose something like that for him? Because it forces him to understand what to do with his left hand, his right hand, his left foot, his right foot, his body, his posture, his positioning, center of gravity, and fear, right? Overcoming fear. And you're doing that like every lap, right? Every lap on a motocross course. It's like, I want to hit that berm as fast as I can, so I have to shift my body correctly. My butt has to be forward, my elbows have to be high. And then I come out of that berm, I want to downshift and I want to hit it fast because I'm going to hit that jump. And I either approach that jump with fear or I know what I'm doing and I go, right? So little things like that, I mean, obviously that's kind of like an extreme case, but it's the same thing with martial arts. It's, why do we become stiff or hard in martial arts? It's when we get lost. We don't know what to do in this moment. So you freeze. And of course, if a person is fighting, these things are going to happen. But in your training, it should never happen because you are there to develop skill. You're not there to fight one another. I'm there to find out what are my weaknesses. So when I'm doing like chisao, I'm not trying to fight to win. I'm trying to figure out what are my flaws and what can I fix so that I walk away from that session, I've learned something about myself, how to improve. I don't know if you've noticed, but like I love building furniture. I love working with wood. I love working with metal. My fascination right now is becoming a blade master, right? Or a blacksmith. And I teach this also to my son.
L'ho visto su Facebook.
Yeah. And I really love the aspect of it because it's so detail orientated and it's all the same. I make the same knife over and over again, trying to get better at it. And it's not moving my elbows, finding my center point of how I move, making sure I'm not rolling my wrist, but everything is straight. The same when you're sharpening a knife, like everything is finding that perfection. So I try to do things like that every day, and I try to make my mind work very quick on different things so that when I train, I'm more alert, I'm more aware, I see more. Even doing like crosswords, like I do crosswords every morning, and I'm horrible at them, but I love the fact that I wake up in the morning and the first thing I'm doing is trying to use my brain to exercise it, but it's something that I enjoy, not something stressful that people would naturally have in a job. Sorry, your next question was?
Ok, stop.
Restart.
Ok. Tutti ti conosciamo per aver interpretato il cattivo in Ip Man 4, Colin Frater, giusto?
Oh, Ip Man 4, Colin Frater. Yes. Very fun role. I had a lot of fun doing this. So how did they approach me? I mean, I was already a working actor at this time. So my manager, we had already worked on different films together. The director of Ip Man 4 was the same director as SPL 3, Paradox, where I starred with Tony Jaa, and was the action director was Sammo Hung, right? So this movie, we'd already worked together, and in between takes on this movie, the director and I, Wilson Yip, we would just sit there and chit-chat. And he loves Wing Chun. He practices Wing Chun. So in between takes, I'd be like, hey, Do-yin, let's go. And I would do Chi-Sao with him and get him moving. And he's sweating. Okay, enough, sit down. I said, okay, good, you got some sweat. All right, let's film. And then in the film, I'm wearing a fedora, right, my hat. And one of the last scenes where I'm riding like a moped, and then the director looked at me and he said, oh, Chris, man, you have to be in the next Ip Man movie. And I said, of course, director, for you, anything. I'd love to, right? But here's the funny part, is he loves Wing Chun, and I do some Chi-Sao with him. He loves my Wing Chun. And he see me in the fedora, like the old time, wear the suit. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna do some Wing Chun in Ip Man 4. No, I show up for the fitting, and it's a karate outfit. And I was like, director, why? This is my love, and you make me go opposite, He said, come on, you're gonna be the best villain. And at the time of that, I was the main villain. So I was gonna be the final fight for Donnie Yen. But they got Scott Adkins in. He's got a much bigger name in the martial arts movies. So obviously that's going to help bring in more of an audience. So I understand that. But it was hilarious. And I said, okay, so what kind of karate am I doing? And he said, we're going to make it up. Kyokutin. I said, oh, like Kyokushin? He said, yeah, but we changed the name so that people don't get mad at us. I said, okay, all right. So I'm a Kyokutin, what am I? The 4th Dan black belt. I said, oh, very good. I've been training a long time. So then I'm thinking, all right, I have to kick. Every movie that I do, we look at like, what is the style of the fighting? What is my character? And so then I think about certain movements. So this one, I just basically watched 3 videos on YouTube of Kyokushin karate, and I look at the master, the founder of the system. I forget his name, but he fight against the bull. And so I see. I don't know, and he have certain ways of posing, and so okay, and then certain ways of moving. I said okay, but then I want to do a couple of kicks that I like, right? And so then when we start to do the filming, and then Yoon Woo Ping, he said, okay, what do you think? And I said, it's okay. It's a little bit simple for me, this whole fight scene, but can I just add these couple of kicks? And he said, well, let me see you do it. And then I do it, and he said, okay. And then we do these kicks, like little stuff like that. Like even when I fought the other guy, I did the Superman punch. I said, I think it would look kind of cool. Or then when I do the jumping, turning back kick, I wanted to do this. It looked kind of cool. And then the initial doing the flying kick, I thought, again, it's fun. I know it's not karate, but I wanted to make a fun action of it to make it at least exciting for myself. Doing the fight scene was fantastic. Donnie Yen is a class act. I think in terms of like martial arts actors, he's the best out there. He's the most knowledgeable about it, from the camera point of view, to an action director point of view, to a performance point of view. So basically all 3. So that's the trifecta right there. And so I take away a lot, when I get to work with him. And I think we had a really great fight scene. He was very complimentary of it and very thankful because I made it very easy for him to do his work. And that's the main thing. And you see us fighting, but actually we are dancing. We are working together to make a nice scene. So whenever you see like one guy just doing his own thing, that means the other guy is not helping, So you want some back and forth to create some drama. I wish we would have had more time to film this, but even though it was kind of a big budget movie, there was a lot of different set pieces. So it was hard for us to put in enough hours and enough days to make it into what I would have thought a great fight scene. But I still think it was the best fight scene of the movie.
Bene, questo lo penso anche io in realtà. Bellissima la scena, bellissimo il combattimento e soprattutto quando hai affrontato tutti i maestri.
Oh, wow, thanks.
A posto.
I don't know what you said.
I know. Chris Collins conosce l'italiano. Bene Chris,
Okay.
Quanto è cambiata la tua vita dopo il film? Donne? Non ce la faccio.
All right.
Bene Chris, quanto è cambiata la tua vita dopo il film? Donne? Soldi? Ferrari?
Oh, donne, soldi, Ferrari. Not a Ferrari, but I did buy a different car. Actually, I bought a Range Rover after that, I like this car. No, I'm just joking. There was, of course, you make very good money when you do the filming. When you go out into public, more people recognize you, say hello, take pictures with you, which is always very nice. It's great for fans because at the end of the day, when we do film, you can reach a larger audience than when you're just teaching, and you want to be able to make a difference with people. You want to be able to help them. I've had people come up to me over at the IFC and be like, "Oh my God, I love your martial arts. Do you have any advice? What can I do?" And you're like, "Whoa, I don't even know you, but okay." And you talk to them a little bit, and you hope that it helps. Women, no, I keep myself committed to my training and committed to my son. There's only so much time in a day that you can do these things, and you only have so long that you can do that. Actually, all this stuff, it's just an illusion,
Sì.
I am.
Ne sono certo di questa cosa.
For me, I'm very, I would say, indifferent to pretty much anything in life, any situation, any whatever. I'm very happy and content with whatever I'm doing in my life. It doesn't matter if I'm doing filming, if I'm doing my martial arts, if I'm making my knives. I mean, honestly, I was just talking to my student this morning before you showed up about this stuff. It's a mindset that you put yourself into. And I think, a person who made it very famous for everybody is Musashi, the world's most famous samurai. And if you find yourself being indifferent to where you are in life, it doesn't matter if you're fighting a duel to the death, or you're reading a book, or you're digging a hole in the sand just to dig a hole, or you're breaking bricks in the hot sun. I've always been kind of like that. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, I will find a way that it's very enjoyable. Maybe I'll make it competitive for myself to create a challenge, or I'm thinking, this is a great workout, or I'm trying to figure something out mentally, it's a puzzle in my mind. And then whoever I'm with, I can find a way, can enjoy kind of connecting on task and purpose.
Sì.
So
Sì.
it's when two people or a group of people are all going for the same thing, it's very easy to connect with one another, and you can crack jokes with one another and do different things. So yeah, my life hasn't changed. I can't say that I think the way that I do when I was 20, because that would be a waste of 20 years, right? But so obviously I've grown a bit, and you learn different lessons as you go through. But yeah, for me, I can be doing anything. I remember when my dad and my brother were still alive, and we worked together in our own company, and those were some of the best days of my life. and it was really hard labor. But it was great because we would joke with one another and you would see the fruits of your labor every day. And then we would have lunch and it would be cheap, fast food, but we would have the greatest time. We would laugh so much. So that feeling, I still get that every day, you know? I think it's about simplifying your life and reducing the number of choices that you have to make about. Everybody's always trying to do this. You make it very simple. Like every single day for lunch, I go to the same Hong Kong diner and I get a pork chop with rice and an egg and a side of iced tea, unsweetened. Every single day for lunch. Why? I couldn't tell you. But I never have to think about what I'm gonna eat for lunch because I just go right downstairs and I sit there and I eat my meal. It's delicious, I love it, and it costs $60. I don't need to go and have a big sushi meal at a 4-star hotel. I don't even have an enjoyment when I do that. But that is like, it is a staple part of my day, that I work my ass off, I train really hard with my students, I'm tired, I'm depleted, I go down, I don't even have to say anything to the waitress. They know. I sit down, hello, how are you today? There's my meal. Eat, and I feel so good, right? I think this is very important for our own personal growth because too often everyone is seeking so much to do so much. I just want to just do what I do and have the enjoyment of that. I have no interest in anything outside of my own passion and my son.
Ok.
Nothing else.
Mamma mia, cioè, aspetta, già comincio, mi sto emozionando. Wow, fantastico. Uno dei primi occidentali ad aprire la scuola qui a Hong Kong, una parte importantissima in un film che per noi è una pietra miliare dello spettacolo, il lavoro con Donnie Yen. Chris, cosa diresti al giovane Chris di 20 anni fa, o più di 20 anni fa, che ha dormito in strada?
My young self.
Sì.
That's a really tough question. I think I would just say to him, like, you're on the right track and you have time. Don't rush. Don't rush. Just take your time going through what you're going through. Because we do have a tendency to think that we don't have enough time. Even at that age, I was on top of the world. I was in my prime. You know, I was strong, I was fit, I was energetic. But you always have that feeling of like, I don't have enough time. I got to accomplish this. I have to accomplish that. I have to accomplish this. Maybe that's because that's who I've always been. But I would tell to him, you know, just stay the course. Keep doing what you're doing. Stay humble. Remain humble. And don't lose sight of your purpose, you know? Because sometimes we get sidetracked. We don't know why. We just think that this is a moment of opportunity. But actually, it's just a diversion to take you off course. And you have to recognize these things so that you stay the course with what you need to get done. I think, you know, one of my biggest faults, but it could be a strength, but one of my greatest faults is I want to be great at everything. I want to experience everything. I don't care what it is. I want to do it, you know? If I see something I like, I have to do it. I have to try because I enjoy it. I guess I always kind of like a little bit follow in my father's footsteps. He was definitely the jack of all trades. there was nothing my father couldn't fix or figure out. But he was also a man of unrealized dreams. You know, he was actually a fantastic athlete, but it didn't work out for him. You know,
Capisco.
and you know, then he joined the Navy, became an engineer, but he was just so good at everything. I never remember a moment where my dad didn't have an answer to something and how to fix it, how to do it right. He was always about that. He's always just do it right, you know? Don't rush, do it right. Even if it came to sweeping the floor. I remember when I first started working with him, and okay, sweep this floor, prep the floor, get it ready. And sweep. And he'd be like, what is this shit? I told you to sweep the floor. You know, that means you divide it into small little quadrants, and you make sure that that area is clean. Then you're in the next, and then the next, and then the next, and the next. It's perfect. Because it takes the same amount of time. Actually, it'll take you less time if you do it right. So I always think about stuff like that. And then, so the reason why I said sometimes it's a fault is because he was so good at those things, but it also kept him from being great at maybe one or two things. That he maybe those were his dreams. And sometimes I think that I'm like this. I sometimes feel like I miss that opportunity to be great, if that makes sense, because I have so many interests. Early on in my life, I loved boxing. I was a very good boxer. I was just an amateur boxer. Nothing special, okay, don't get me wrong. But when I boxed, I was good. And the coaches noticed that I was good. Everybody spent time with me because they knew I was good, right? But then you leave it. You know, I went off to college, I played football. And then, so football became like, okay, I need to focus on football. And I was really good at football. But I don't think I had the passion for it because it wasn't so important to me. It came easy to me. Like, you know, I would joke around and they'd be like, Chris, get in there, run that play. And I'd run the play and I'd score a touchdown. I'm like, all right, cool. And then they'd go talk to the girls. And so I didn't feel like I had to work for it. And if I had dedicated myself more, I would have become that professional football player like I wanted to be. But maybe I didn't really want that. And so you go through these different stages because you're uncertain. You don't know. I always talk about like, you think about like, you have to first find out what it is that you're good at. But what you're good at is just, it's a topic, it's a subject, right? You don't know, is it gonna be going this direction, this direction, this direction? So I chose all directions. So, I joined the Marines. I loved the Marines. I left college. I wanted to be a Marine. I wanted to do this. I wanted to fight for my country. I loved this. Very patriotic. My whole family. And then all of a sudden, my mind just started going into the martial arts. Like, I wanted to be a sniper. I wanted to be able to shoot from very far away. And I wanted to be hidden, And I still love this, but I wanted to really be clear on up close and personal, I wanted to be, I have a knife in my hand, you have a knife in your hand, I'm going to kill you. Not because I want to kill you, I'm just saying like, it was the mentality of...
Il confronto.
Yeah, like I want to be good at this, and I think that's really, really important. So I got, really focused on that, and then all of a sudden, okay, so then my interest all of a sudden goes into the martial arts. Whereas maybe I could have just stayed out and done 20 years in the Marine Corps, done all this. But my mind went over here. And then I got into the martial arts, and I came here, I'm training the martial arts. I knew I had to teach it. So I knew I had to go back to the Marines and teach it, right? And when you're teaching a bunch of Marines, it's not like teaching a bunch of civilians. Like, they're gonna have a go at you, right? So I was like, I gotta make sure that I can use this. So I traveled a bit around Asia and I would fight, and back then it was called full contact fighting. Sure. These types of things, they call it like a street brawl. And you would go to these shitty places and you would fight, sometimes it was bars. But I did this for my own confidence, to know that, okay, I can use my Wing Chun. And I forced myself, like, don't use your boxing, Chris. Don't use your wrestling. Don't use any jiu-jitsu. Just use your Wing Chun. Because I needed to know that I could use it. And after I did that, I think maybe like a year and a half, it might have been over a 2-year span. And I was very confident. I was like, I can use this in this environment, right? And then I was lucky enough to get a job doing security. And then in security, you have to fight, but you can't punch people. So you have to subdue them in a way that doesn't get you in trouble. And then I have really good confidence to be able to do this. And then at that time, I started to teach, you know? And so it was kind of like, okay, martial arts, fighting. Should I go and be a fighter? I'm good at this. But there was like no money. It was, you know, I paid for my plane ticket, I paid for my hotel, they give you a little bit of money, you get nothing, and you come back, and it was just kind of like, no, I think I have more fun teaching, because I really like training. So then I focused on the teaching aspect. But then again, maybe if I focused on the fighting aspect, something else would have happened. But then I focused on the teaching, you know, and then if we talk about just in the teaching of just the Wing Chun, what if I just only focused on Wing Chun? Maybe I'd have even more success teaching Wing Chun around the world. I'm still successful, you know, I still train around the world, I teach people, I try to help them to see, you know, my experience or my interpretation of what is Wing Chun. That's it. Not like I'm gonna go and fight these people. No, I'm like, I wanna help you, and okay, this is fantastic. You know, but there are still a lot of people that say, oh, well, he does boxing, he does Kali, he does jiu-jitsu, he does wrestling. It's not true Wing Chun. Not true. Actually, when I do Wing Chun, when I teach Wing Chun, it is exactly how I was taught. I don't change anything.
Assolutamente. L'ho visto.
Yeah.
L'ho visto in Italia, quindi posso confermare questa cosa. Chris Collins, quando insegna Wing Chun, insegna solamente il Wing Chun.
Yeah, so if you were to say there is a difference, the difference is because it's my mind. It's not my sifu's mind, right? Like, even I tell everybody all the time, I was very lucky because I got to train with Cheng Chun Fan and I got to train with Leung Ting. Actually, two very different minds. Very different. Like black and white. But same system. It's like two different jiu-jitsu practitioners. Same system, completely different game, right? Different bodies, different ideas. And I saw that as like, this is how I make it an expression of myself. I would teach it exactly as I was taught it, but how I interpret it. You know?
Assolutamente, sono assolutamente d'accordo.
Yeah.
E penso la stessa cosa che pensi tu. Lo stesso stile da due praticanti differenti. Nonostante lo stile sia uguale, il risultato totalmente diverso.
Yeah. And then I would tell myself, like I said, give yourself time. Right? Be patient, allow things to just develop. Don't force things. Don't try to force things to happen because they will just happen. And when they do, you are in that moment of letting it happen. Because when you force things, you miss the moment. It's like a punch, right? If we punch and we squeeze, we lock up, you miss the moment, right?
Sì.
Yeah? So if you just are in the moment, when you punch, the change will just happen. You will go with it. It becomes, I call this the artificial intelligence, right? It goes from here, we're thinking about it, we're late. So don't think about it. Just be in the moment. Be indifferent to that moment. And then as things unfold, they will happen. So what I mean by that, what I was actually getting at is, as you go through different stages in your martial arts career, any career, you have a different mind at that moment, because you could call it a different maturity level, right? And you change. I think I was talking to you about that the other day. The way that you train in your 20s is different from how you train in your 30s, and your 40s, and your 50s. Man, me in my 20s and 30s, I was like a freaking pit bull, right? But literally, if there was 20 people in the class, I had to train with 20 different people. I would force myself until that person had enough. And then I would go to the next person, and I would train with you until you had enough, and then next person. And I wouldn't stop until I went through everyone in that room. Every single class, you know? They hated me, to tell you the truth. I don't know if it was because I was an asshole, you know, or it was just because I had a different intensity level, you know? I was not just, you know, your average civilian. Like I always had myself, I held myself at a higher standard with my training because, you know, I kind of played at those higher levels and stuff, whether it was in the military or whether it was in sports. Like I always pushed myself to be at the best, right? I would made the mistake, I would compare myself against the best, right? So you push. Allow it to happen because your mind will naturally start to evolve, but don't force the evolution. Let it happen. Because again, you will always come back to those fundamentals. So stick to the fundamentals, everything else comes into place. Yeah.
Grazie mille.
Yeah.
Passiamo alla prossima domanda. Stop. Wow.
Ci siamo.
Chris, sono arrivato dall'Italia qui ad Hong Kong. È stato il mio sogno per tanti anni e tra tutte le scuole che sono presenti in questa città ho deciso di intervistare te perché ritengo che tu sei un personaggio molto positivo che unisce il carisma alle arti marziali e alla performance fisica. La domanda che ti sto facendo è una domanda che spesso faccio a me stesso, soprattutto quando mi alleno. Sempre meno ragazzi praticano il Wing Chun. Il Wing Chun sta pian piano morendo. Cosa ne pensi al riguardo e cosa può essere cambiato per evitare tutto questo?
I don't know if it's change that is required for Wing Chun to grow. I think, you know, one of the main things for me brings us back to what you said earlier is kind of. You said, what do I think about, you know, physicality, physical prowess, things like this, right? So here's a very simple answer. Maybe not so simple. Young people, for the most part, they look up to professional athletes, right?
Sì.
You see the football player, the basketball player, the baseball player, like, wow, you love them. One, because they follow their dreams. You get to watch them every day, cheer for their team. You know, and two, it's you believe that you can follow those dreams because you want to be just like them. You idolize them. So now, if I tell you that young kid to walk into a door and you see one man standing here and another man standing here, and you're going to learn from one of them, and you see this guy, he's fit, he's strong, he's determined, you know, and you see this guy, not so fit, no athleticism, kind of like hunched back. You know that he drink, he smoke. This guy is like treats his body like a temple. They're gonna choose this. Now that does not mean that this guy has more to offer than this guy. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm really saying is the first impressions are is a long-lasting impression. You tell me you're going to teach me to fight, this guy will kill you, right? It's natural.
Il biglietto da visita, fondamentalmente è come ci presentiamo al potenziale allievo.
Yeah, I mean,
sì, assolutamente.
Maybe this guy can win. Maybe this guy has so much knowledge and he had those years of fighting strong. And that's the wise decision, is to go here. But you can't tell a young person to make wise decisions because they are not wise. Because wisdom comes from experience, right? So you cannot expect them to just know exactly how to determine what is the best decision. But you can help influence that decision by setting a good example, right? And, you know, that's what we try to focus on when we teach martial arts. You know, like, I'm not the best example. I try my best. I make mistakes. I'm flawed. But I do my best, and I literally wake up every day and I think about my students. I told them this a couple weeks ago. I said, you guys have no idea how much I think about you. I think about what you do. I think about what you do. Why do you keep making this mistake? Why can't you fix this? And I try to figure out how to help them, you know, get over that hurdle, you know, and this is what people need, you know, but you got to get them in the door. You got to get them to trust you, to believe in you. And if you're not out there, nowadays, if you're not out there fighting competitively, then they're thinking what you do doesn't work, which of course is not true. But this is what they look for, you know? So I think that we must maintain that same level of self-discipline so that that person it's gonna be a little bit smaller of a gap between the two, you know? I think that's the biggest thing. You don't have to change anything. You know, what bothers me the most is that these people who don't fight, they do all the talking. Shut up. You know? Maybe I do the same thing. I don't know. But it's just like, just teach what you teach. You do not have to convince this person of your way. If you don't like it, go. I don't need you. Right? But if you want to hear what I have to say and how I'm going to teach you, then stay. But I don't want to waste my time convincing you. I've had people come in from other Wing Chun academies, like, oh, well, I do it like this, I do it like that. I said, well, then go do that. But if you're paying me to teach you, then do what I'm telling you to do, because that's what I know.
È normale,
right?
È una cosa normalissima.
Yeah, and so that's the biggest thing is, you know, stop bickering, stop bad-mouthing one another. Do what you do. Focus on what you do and make your garden grow, right? I mean, that's the Wing Chun, right? The eternal spring. Constantly feed that field and make it grow, however you want to say it, because that's what goes on in the other communities. You know?
È vero.
Yeah, people are not, you know, sitting there bad-mouthing other gyms. They're just in there training. That's what you need to focus on. So
questo è il problema questo è il problema più grande della società del Wing Chun. Ci sono troppe frizioni all'interno delle scuole, chi è più originale, chi è più bravo, lui non va bene. Sì, su questo sono purtroppo totalmente d'accordo con quello che pensi.
Yeah, I think the main thing is, ignore the gimmicks. You know, people out there creating gimmicks, you know, to get you in the door, just ignore it. Like, you don't need it. What did I say earlier? Stick to the fundamentals. That's what I would have told my young self. See the fundamentals. Everything is off of that. Forget about the other stuff. It's just it's an illusion. You know what I mean? Like, I've only learned my Wing Chun. I didn't learn any other Wing Chun styles, you know? I just do what I do. That's what I like. That's what I'm good at. That's what I teach. I don't need to compare myself to somebody else or what they do. You do that, great. If it helps build the community, great. That's awesome. Because I understand that same passion of wanting to learn a martial art and wanting to teach a martial art. So obviously I want the best for those people. I want you to have a successful school. I want a successful school. I want my students to have a successful school. That's all. And if you're having a successful school over there, good for you. Do right. Do good. Right? That's all that matters. So just stop talking about everybody. I don't understand it. I don't really get any of that. I mean, it's just what I hear from people telling me about this and that, and I'm like, who? I don't know. Who are you talking about, right? Like, I only have so many hours in a day that I can train, improve, teach, eat, sleep, shit. Like, I don't have time to focus on whatever this other person is doing, right?
Apprezzo la tua sincerità e ti dico la verità, la maglia rossa va bene, la maglia gialla ce l'hanno troppe persone e non va bene. È per questo che ti intervisto, anche perché non hai voluto vestire i colori del Gran Maestro, il Grand Master.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think any of that stuff really exists. Actually, you know, like in my earlier years, I think when I was about your age, I stopped all uniforms. You know, I had one shirt for everybody. We just all wore the same thing. I did away with any type of certificates, examinations, all this stuff. Mainly because if you're in front of your student every class, you know his performance level. You don't need to do an exam for him to tell him where he's at. You just stand in front of the class and, you know, hey, this is where he's at. Good job. You know, like, because at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything that's tangible, but I do understand, you know, incentivizing things for students, validating them, and inside like a martial arts community, I get it. We all feel like we need validation, you know? I need you to tell me I'm good, so I feel good. But it's not real. Like, if you feel good about it, it's good for you. Martial arts should be good for you. It doesn't matter if you're good at martial arts. It's good for you. It makes you feel good. You make some good friends. Like, that's the most important thing. You enjoy your day and you improve. Fantastic. Nothing else. You don't have to say anything else, right? But it's when people are saying, oh, you're not good enough. You did this wrong. You should have done this. You do it. You do your thing. Leave me alone. I'm happy doing what I'm doing, you know? But it's different, I guess, if you talk about, okay, I want to go into a jiu-jitsu competition. I want to go into a boxing match or an MMA match. Then, okay, you need to be really focused and thinking about these things. Be like, you know, this doesn't work so well because, as you can see, over the past 2 years, people have adjusted to this. So now this technique has evolved. Okay, fine. But you can create your own evolution within your gym with your sparring, with how you train. And that's fine. You know, I do believe that there is a period of time that you need someone telling you, like, okay, that's all right, but you know, you don't forget about this. Okay, yeah, we have to have someone to look up to tell us, don't do it like this, right? I get that, you know, but when you get to a point where you are an expert at what you do, just be good with that. Just focus on that. You don't need outside validation on what you do. You know, for me, it's, you know, I'm happy when, you know, someone from another jiu-jitsu academy, they pop into Hong Kong and they train with my guys and they say, man, you guys are really good. And I'm like, awesome.
La soddisfazione più grande,
I'm
sì.
like, thank you so much. That's really kind of you. And that's nice, and the students feel good about that, you know. Like that's enough. You know what I mean? And if they want to compete, they can compete. That's also fantastic. But that should just be it. You know what I mean?
L'importante è trovare il proprio equilibrio e fare quello che più ci piace. Su questo sono totalmente d'accordo.
Or, hey, I learned something cool. You know, don't walk into someone's Wing Chun school and be like, I want to chisao. You know, you come in like you want to beat everybody up. Like, you want to go there. Remember that this person is dedicating their time, their energy, time away from home, time away from their family. This is their job, this is their career, this is how they put food on the table, and their students are there for him, he's for them. And like, who are you? You're just an interruption. You're there for a moment. Just come in and enjoy a class, learn something new, maybe not, but at least take part, don't be a disruption. I had 2 guys show up last night that were a disruption, and I wanted to like grab them by their necks and just throw them out of my gym. Yeah, but I kept it cool, let them finish off, and then leave, and then okay, done. You know, but my younger self would have like really damaged them, because I was just like, why are you here? This is no good. And definitely don't be the guy that shows up and is like, oh, do you mind if I video the sessions? Because then that's immediate, like, you're putting people on the spot, like, so you got to be prepared for what's going to happen next. You know, it's not a one-way street when it comes to things like that. Yeah.
Sifu Chris, grazie per questi giorni passati insieme, per le cose che ci hai mostrato e soprattutto per il tuo punto di vista. È stata veramente un'esperienza fantastica per me e ti ringrazierò oggi come sempre. Ti aspetto in Italia, prossimo anno, la prossima volta. Ti ringrazio.
Thank you so much.
Ok, scusami.
Get the fuck out of here! So bad! Ay, ay, ay.
La fine di questa puntata rappresenta un nuovo inizio. Il nostro rapporto è andato avanti e sono orgoglioso di poter dire che siamo diventati amici.
We are love, sweet love.
L'ho assistito e aiutato come interprete ad un seminario in Italia. Nel mio ritorno ad Hong Kong mi ha nuovamente aperto le porte della sua scuola e sono stato ospite del suo podcast su YouTube. Io lo sostengo nelle sue iniziative e lui sostiene le mie, sui progetti futuri dentro e fuori questo canale. Mai avevi pensato ad un epilogo del genere.
Alright, son. First day of school is gonna be a tough one, okay?
Spesso ci arrendiamo ancora prima di partire ed ogni giorno bruciamo occasioni su occasioni. Si dice che la fortuna aiuta gli audaci ed è vero. Iniziare un nuovo percorso implica sacrificio, rischio e tantissima paura. Ma con il culo sul divano la situazione non cambia e i sogni restano sogni. È proprio quando iniziamo ad agire che tutto prende una forma diversa, tutto cambia. Torno a casa con le idee chiare e con la testa piena di ricordi, sensazioni e emozioni.
Sotto, forza e grinta a volontà.
Che fino a poco prima della partenza erano sogni astratti. Grazie Hong Kong. Ma la mia vera missione inizia qui, in Italia.